I'd like to take a moment to share with you a very interesting conversation that I had with a new client. It's my hope that what I shared with her is a help to you, the way it was to her. She's 36 years old. She has been married for 13 years. She has 3 children with her husband. They have 3 children together. They are ages 1, 3, and 4. She said to me, Doc, I'm coming to you because I am at a crossroads in the marriage. Our marriage has been terrible for the last 6 years. Of those 13 years, he, in her words, is very horrible to her. He mistreats her. He is very mentally and emotionally abusive to her. And she said, Doc, you're probably wondering then if it's that bad, why am I there? I said, I don't know if I would word it that way. I said, but why are you there? She said, if I'm being honest with you, I'm staying for the kids. I have seen your video about the burning house, and I understand that my decision to stay might be negatively impacting them, but I just can't wrap my hands around the idea of them having to grow up without him. I said, well, what kind of father is he? She said, he's not a good father at all. I said, so you can't wrap your hands around the idea of them growing up around or not growing up around a bad father? She said, I guess if you put it that way, that's a different way to look at it. But I just feel like in my mind, it's better for them to have a father around than to not have him around at all. I said, ma'am, that's not correct. An unhealthy parent around is more detrimental to those children. Just because you want to do it in the name of 2 parents in a household, which is great if you can have it, you're better off having 1 healthy parent in that household than having 1 healthy parent and 1 bad parent in that household who is not committed to raising those children. I said, what has been his explanation about the marriage? Does he want to stay? She said, you're not going to believe this, but he actually wants to stay. And she put her head down and started boohooing and crying. And I understood why she was crying. I said, ma'am, I get why you're crying because in your mind, this probably makes no sense, correct? She said, it doesn't. He's so bad to me. He's so bad to the kids. He doesn't do well by them. He doesn't treat me well at all. But he tells me he wants to stay. He wants to stay in the marriage. He wants me to be patient with him, to work with him. She said, but frankly, Doc, I've been working with him for about the last 10 years of the 13 years we've been married. And yes, we've had some children along those years, but I really believe those children was a result of me trying. I don't feel like he's making any real effort. And frankly, the more he talks, the worse it gets in the context of me waiting on him to do something significant to save this marriage. I said, well, part of the problem is, reasons become excuses when we're tired and when we're not heard. And so when a person gets tired or they're not heard over and over and over again, then what a person presents to them as a reason for why they're not doing better, or a reason why they're not doing more, or a reason why they haven't changed, those reasons start to feel like excuses when it's a bunch of talking but not a lot of action. I said, but I'm going to be very candid with you. If there's a time for you to leave, if you're going to consider leaving, there are really 2 optimal times to leave if you're going to consider leaving and you have children. And I said, I'm not recommending this. You have to make this decision for you. I said, but if you have children, it's typically 2 optimal times, either when they're really, really young or they're much older. The research says that personalities are formed between the ages of 3 and 8. And so your children are 1, 3, and 4. They're right in the thick of what's going on. And whether you realize it or not, they know a lot of what's going on already. And so if you leave, for them at their age, it's going to feel like daddy has abandoned them until the healthy parent explains to them in terms that they understand without all the details, obviously, and shows them what it's like to have a healthy parent in their lives. I said, but ma'am, you're not the first person to consider this, but I want you to keep this in mind. I said, but let me ask you this. I said, what has really been keeping you in this relationship, in this marriage without doing something? She said, if I'm being honest with you, Doc, I want to counter your question with the question. I said, sure, what is it? She said, how much time should you give someone to change? I said, it's a great question. I've been asked that question a lot, and I want to give you an analogy to make it make sense. Um, Several years ago, I was stuck on an airplane that had a mechanical flaw. We were supposed to take off and head to the destination where I was going. And the pilot came over and said, after shutting the doors and we thinking we were going to take off, about 7 minutes later, he came on and said, hey, we've noticed a mechanical issue. We've called. They're going to come and fix it. We're anticipating about a 30-minute wait. Well, they came on about 15 minutes after the mechanics came on. He came on and said, well, it's going to be at about another hour. And he apologized. He was very apologetic. He said, I'll continue to keep you updated. And literally every 5 minutes, it was almost annoying. He would come over the air and say, hey, just letting you guys know they're working on it. They're doing the best they can. I hope you're comfortable. Use the restroom, blah, blah, blah. But his communication was constant while we were waiting. He was very honest that it wasn't a very serious issue, but it was one that had to be taken care of. And he assured us on that plane that every action was being taken place. Every effort was taking place to make sure that this situation was rectified. But what happened is this hour ended up turning into 2.5 hours. And people were getting frustrated for different reasons. Some people live to be frustrated, I believe. But a lot of us were of the belief that it was acceptable because he did some things that we should all do. You asked me, how much time should you give someone if they say they're going to change and they haven't changed? Here are 3 things I want you to consider. Number 1, self-awareness. Self-awareness is honesty about who we are, where we are, and what we're doing. And self-awareness promotes honesty. So if your husband is being honest about who he is, where he is, and what he's doing, then maybe he deserves a little bit more time. That pilot was very honest about the flaws on that plane, that those flaws had to be corrected in order for us to leave, and the nature of the seriousness behind those flaws. And because that pilot was serious, I said, how did it make us feel? She said, it probably caused you guys to trust the pilot. I said, exactly. I said, is your husband being self-aware regarding you and this marriage? She put her head down, started crying. I said, the answer is no, right? She said, no, sir, he's not. I said, number 2. I said, the second thing that this pilot did is he communicated. Notice I said that this pilot came on about every 5 minutes and was telling us what was going on, giving us updates to the point where it was annoying us. But it was his constant communication of what he was doing to work on the situation that created patience. I said, ma'am, the reason why you don't have patience is because he tells you he wants to work, but he's not communicating how he's making it happen. So when a person stops communicating the change they want to make, they're telling you they don't want any more time. When a person wants more time, they're willing to not only be honest about who they are, where they are, and what they're doing, they're also willing to communicate what they are doing while you wait. Because when they communicate what they're doing while you wait, that encourages you to have what? She said, patience. I said, perfect. I said, that leads me to the final thing, and that's number 3. I said, and that word is actions. This pilot demonstrated actions by bringing these mechanics on and showing us that he was doing everything he could to get the problem rectified. I said, ma'am, how are you evaluating your husband's effort? She said, Doc, if I'm being honest, all he does is talk. He hasn't done anything significant to change our situation or to change his behavior. And here it is, 13 years married, and the last 10 years of that marriage has been horrible. And here I am waiting as if he's going to do something different and wondering if I should give him time. I said, so does his effort tell you he deserves more time? She put her head down again and started crying. She said, no, sir. I said, so ma'am, he's not self-aware. He's not communicating what he's doing, and he's not supporting you and supporting his interests with actions. If a person is not providing self-awareness, is not communicating, and is not showing any effort, they don't deserve more time. I said all 3 of those things have to be in place, or else you're going to be stranded on this airplane called a marriage, wondering when it's going to take off, but be completely in the dark because the pilot, who's your husband, is not talking to you. She thanked me profusely for this conversation and proceeded forward to get the separation to move on with her life. And I certainly wish her the best of luck. I hope this message made sense. If it did, type church in the comments with 3 R's. And then remember, you've got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you.